Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. The latest from newly crowned WBO welterweight champion Mikaela Mayer, who says, "I'm definitely fighting in March, so we are going to get something done, but it won't be in the United Kingdom." It was a year that started with frustration and more for Mikaela Mayer. A visit to Liverpool in January to challenge Natasha Jonas for her IBF welterweight title ended in disappointment. An early fight of the year contender that was a real privilege to be ringside for. Many in press row felt Mayer had done enough to take away that IBF bauble from the hometown fighter, but the plaudits and the sympathy that followed couldn't change anything. It was another split decision reversal on away soil for Mayer. But Mayer didn't leave the UK without hope. The level of performance that she served up against Jonas and the controversy over the scoring kept Mayer firmly in line for more big fights. Jonas and Mayer tried desperately hard to get the rematch over the line. Both fighters wanted it, but despite their best efforts, they had to move on without each other. Mayer eventually landed another crack at a world title. Sandy Ryan accepted a top-rank offer in September to defend her WBO title against Mayer. The Jonas versus Mayer fight was some fight. Ryan and Mayer was even better. A titanic back-and-forth war in New York. Another classic to add to the Mikaela Mayer collection, but this time, Mayer was the fighter who had her hand raised. A thoroughly deserved victory for the American.
Mikaela Mayer is best described as a cerebral fighter and a boxer, but man alive does she have dog in her. Whether you're talking about the Maiva Hamadouche fight, the Alicia Baumgartner fight, the Jonas fight, or the more recent Sandy Ryan fight, Mikaela Mayer is synonymous with fan-friendly fights that mean something.
After an extended period of celebration, thoughts now turn to what's next for Mayer. Offers have been made, a short list of quality and intrigue. "I'm definitely fighting in March, so we are going to get something done," Mayer says, of when she will make the first defense of her WBO title, but it won't be in the UK, and it won't be on that all-female boxer card. Mayer only wants the marquee names and the big fights. At this stage in my career, I don't want to take no-name fights. I want to take risks. I don't want to just sit there and protect the belt. It feels good to have that world title again, but now I have to hold on to it. This is not an easy division. Every fight I have will be a competitive fight, but that's okay. That's what I welcome. At this stage in my career, I wouldn't want anything less than that.
In my previous video, we talked about how Joe Gallagher, who trains Natasha Jonas, let it be known that in spite of the Price fight being announced, the Price fight isn't actually done, and he looks at a Mayer rematch as being a bigger money fight.
But you've seen the announcement that Jonas and Price will fight in March, so in the meantime, I think we will try and make the rematch with Sandy Ryan. Ryan forms part of that aforementioned short list. Mayer and Ryan gave us one of the greatest fights of all time. Bitter rivals with a seemingly never-ending feud. Nobody will complain if they do indeed run it back. Last time I heard, Sandy wanted the fight in the UK, and she wanted a rematch clause, Mayer told Fight Post. But I am standing firm. That fight is in the US, and that I get the rematch clause, and she doesn't. When I fought Tasha, she was the champion, and she had the rematch clause, and I didn't. So that's just the way it goes. Beggars can't be choosers. If she wants the rematch, I am prepared to give it to her because that's the kind of fighter that I am. If the fans want the rematch, then I want the rematch. But Sandy can't demand things to all be on her terms. If she does, we will just walk away and find someone else. If the Ryan rematch does get over the line, and the signs are good on that front, it will be the first rematch in the professional career of Mikaela Mayer. Both might see it as unfinished business after everything that went on in September. There is every chance it could even top what we got the last time, with Jonas and Price fighting for 3 world titles at the Royal Albert Hall in March, and if Mayer repeats what she did 3 months ago, we could see the American fighting for undisputed before next year ends.
So I didn't know until now that they were negotiating terms for a Sandy Ryan rematch. I feel that a rematch with Sandy may be cheaper to put together than a rematch with Natasha, because Natasha does have 2 of the 4 major titles at this weight.
Natasha isn't actually the one that needs the rematch per se. She already has a recorded victory, quote-unquote victory, over Michaela, and she can take it and run. But if she runs, she's running towards that Lauren Price fight.
The risky one, the one that Tesco Joe said, isn't even done.
So that's something to consider. That's something to think about. That the Jonas people might prefer the Mayer rematch, but the Mayer rematch may be harder and more expensive to put together.
So if the money for Mayer in America is similar to the money for Lauren in the UK, would they do it then?
Maybe, but who's to say that the money is similar? Who's to say that Top Rank would be willing to put it up? They're obviously going to pay Sandy less than they would pay Natasha. Do they want to put the extra money up? Do they want to do it?
Michaela Mayer says that she's coming back in March. Teofimo is fighting in March. He's supposed to be boxing Subriel Matias on pay-per-view.
So if Michaela is boxing on Teofimo's undercard, does that help a Jonas rematch along? That it's a pay-per-view? Does that help?
Maybe.
Because if you're billing it as a pay-per-view, it's supposed to be a big show. You want it to be as big as it can be. Well, a Jonas rematch for 3 of the 4 major titles as opposed to just running it back with Sandy, fighting Natasha again, it is bigger.
The whole thing is fluid, and we'll see what happens. But one thing we know with an absolute certitude is Michaela Mayer has no intention of boxing in the UK again as an away fighter. So if Sandy or Natasha want to run it back with her, they have to come to America.
In men's whatever weight news, veteran bad boy Ryan Garcia says, "For Christmas, I just want boxing to go back to being the best sport in the world, the one I fell in love with, not this weak shit."
When was Ryan Garcia in love with boxing? Near as I can tell, he's literally been charting his departure, his retirement from boxing for the last 4 or 5 years. Wasn't it Ryan who said he wants to retire by age 27?
It was.
For you to be saying something like that when you're so young, when you're in your prime years or entering your prime, I don't know that you ever loved boxing. And remember when he said that he doesn't want to fight for alphabet titles?
How could you say that you loved boxing, but you never wanted to be a champion in the sport? I think at the time that he said it, people read more into it than what it actually meant. The real reason Ryan would have said this is because he doesn't want to have to make the weight. To fight for belts, you gotta be a professional. You gotta be disciplined. You have to make the weight.
Ryan doesn't want to do that.
After he loses to Gervonta Davis and quote-unquote moves up to 140, he never actually made 140. He never actually made that weight. And we know that he didn't make the contracted weight for the Devin Haney fight. So when you think about that, and you think about him not wanting to fight for titles, well, that would be the why. To fight for them, you have to make the weight. Not just that.
Mandatories.
You have to fight your mandatories. If you want to become a champion and then stay a champion, you have to play by the rules and you have to fight your mandatories. If this guy doesn't want to adhere to a contracted weight, what makes you think he'd want to adhere to mandatories? Guys in the queue that have a precedent to challenge him. He wouldn't go along with that either.
When did this guy ever love the sport of boxing?
Because he says he fell in love with it. I would like to know when that was, because it couldn't have been no time recent.
He said this weak shit.
The only weak shit we see in boxing today is from fighters like Ryan Garcia, to the point where if he retired tomorrow, I think that boxing would be better off for it, because I think he and some other fighters set a bad example.
I don't give a shit if he's popular. The only reason he gets away with as much shit as he gets away with is because he's popular. But Logan Paul is popular. KSI, Jake Paul, they're popular. I view Ryan as not being all that far removed from them. To me, you're more of an influencer than a boxer.
So some people might look at Ryan as a bad boy, or a maverick, who plays by his own rules.
That's only because he can't hack it.
He's not good enough. No one will ever think of Ryan Garcia in the same light as a Roberto Duran at lightweight, a Sugar Ray Leonard.
No one!
Nobody thinks of Ryan Garcia as being of the same ilk as a Floyd Mayweather, a Manny Pacquiao, a Juan Manuel Marquez, or even his former mentor, Oscar De La Hoya. For all of Oscar's faults, he was a consummate professional.
Well, maybe not so much a consummate professional, But he was a real fighter. He was a real fighter. Ryan is not.
Ryan is ass.
Ryan is terrible. Yeah, he's big and he's strong and he's got some speed, some power. But in terms of boxing acumen, he sucks.
Ryan is ass.
And he's a part of the problem. I view Ryan as the poster child for everything that's wrong with American boxing here today. Him and Gervonta, the man who beat him.
You say that you want boxing to go back to what? Go back to being what? The way things used to be? You wouldn't have made it in an era with Roberto Duran as a lightweight. He would have chewed you up and spat you out. That's what would have happened at 140.
What, because you were going to mix it up with Aaron Pryor? You were going to mix it up with Costi Azul?
At welter, you were going to fight the Mark Brelands of the world? The Oscar De La Hoyas, the Felix Trinidads? No, you would have ducked those guys. The Sugar Ray Leonards, the Tommy Hearnses? You wouldn't have fought them. The only reason you're still around is by not playing by the same rules that they did.
Because you can't. If you do, you're fishy foods, my friend.
I've got a Christmas wish list. I wish that Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Davis left the sport of boxing next year. Just retire. Go do OnlyFans. Go do pornography or whatever you gotta do to keep the lights on.
Go away.
You are embarrassing.
You suck.
If what you want is for boxing to go back to being the way that it was, then you need to go away. You and the other fighters like you.
Then it will.
And finally, in men's welterweight news, veteran anti-doping expert Victor Conte has decided to write Conor Benn and Eddie Hearn a few more love letters, a few more short stories.
Again?
He said, in my opinion, the Conor Benn doping case seems to have ended in a sad and pathetic way. UK anti-doping makes a statement that basically their hands are tied by the Benn lawyers, and the only way boxing fans will know how the UCAD decision was made is if Benn gives them permission. We have Eddie Hearn claiming Benn has been cleared without any UCAD transparency.
What do you define as transparency?
What a joke this case seems to have become. My guess is that Benn is afraid to allow UCAD to reveal the truth to boxing fans. What is the take-home message? Is it that UK boxers who break the rules can hire the lawyers that can control UCAD from having any transparency? I believe this is a wrong message to send UK boxers that might be abusing pads.
Yeah, he wrote those guys yet another love letter.
My advice to Conor Benn is to sign the 55-45 deal with Chris Eubank Jr. ASAP. If you fight boxer Barrios first, with random drug testing, he will likely beat you, and then your fight with Eubank will be for far less. You've got a mysterious gift from UK anti-doping, so be smart and make the money grab. If you lose to Barrios, then you will make Eddie Hearn cry, and we will no longer have to listen to his hyperbole.
Because you think we'd rather listen to yours?
Please provide the specifics of the UCAD ruling in your case. It seems your lawyers have placed a muzzle on UCAD and that you are the only person who can provide boxing fans with the truth.
Oh, is that who you're supposed to be in all of this? A boxing fan.
Do boxing fans deserve the truth? Did UCAD basically throw in the towel because of lacking the funds? Is that how UCAD adjudication works? If a boxer has enough money, then the WADA Code strict liability rule doesn't apply. What do you have to hide from boxing fans? Please reveal whatever evidence was presented in the case.
To who? To you?
I've never seen either Eddie Hearn or Conor Benn wasting their time mincing words with Victor Conte. I'll go as far as saying that I think I'm more annoyed by it than they are.
Why?
Because Victor Conte is presenting himself as a voice for the boxing fans that just watched Tyson Fury box Usyk this past weekend.
Fury who tested positive for nandrolone.
The boxing fans who don't seem to care too much about Ryan's anti-doping fiasco or Canelo Alvarez's fiasco before him. The boxing fans that are essentially desensitized to this kind of stuff because more and more it seems like a common practice within the sport.
The boxing fans don't actually care that much. So why do you?
The fact of the matter is, the ban on Conor Benn has been lifted by the NADP. Robert Smith, the head of the BBBOC, said there's no reason that Conor shouldn't be able to apply for a boxing license in the UK and get one. It's done.
It's been going on for 2 years. That's not long enough?
You're the only weirdo that keeps coming back to this. You're the only one who's trying to keep this conversation alive, and for what? Some sense of altruism? Are you supposed to be the whistleblower, the watchdog in all of this? The more he does it, the more I question what Victor Conte's interests really are.
Because who is he to ask for legal documentation from Conor Benn or transparency, more of it, from UCAD? You sell protein.
Unless there's more going on here than meets the eye, and there probably is, all Victor Conte is on the surface is a guy that sells supplements, creatine, protein powder, flaxseed oil.
The more he beats the drum about this, the more obvious that he makes it. He's got some other kind of stake in this, some other kind of interest.
Nobody else is interested in this story, not even the boxing fans, the quote-unquote fans he claims to be speaking for. They don't care anymore. If you ask them, this has gone on long enough.
They're done.
So why aren't you? And what I think it is he's an interested party because he's working with VADA, and he wants to ensure that VADA is contracted for all of Conor Benn's fights moving forward. What this is tantamount to public shaming or public pressure.
Conor Benn can now resume boxing in the United Kingdom. They have their own anti-doping protocol,
UCAD, that works in tandem with the BBBOC. So if you're Conor and you're boxing in the UK, you don't actually have to hire VADA. It's not a requisite. And if Victor Conte seemingly has an axe to grind with Conor, or an axe to grind with Eddie, it's that Conor might be able to continue to box in the UK under no obligation to use VADA.
He doesn't have to.
That's what UCAD is for. What Victor's beef is, he would prefer that they keep using VADA to continue to provide a steady stream of cash to that anti-doping agency. Maybe they will, or maybe they won't. One thing's for sure, they don't have to.
And that's what Victor's problem is.
But why would Victor have a stake in VADA getting a steady stream of cash coming in?
Why would he care?
Why indeed? On the face of it, he doesn't actually work for VADA. He's not running that show. Margaret Goodman runs that show as far as I know. What he does is sell protein powder and supplements.
So why is a supplement manufacturer demanding legal documentation from Conor Benn and transparency from UCAD?
Nobody ever asks because nobody really cares. They don't care about the Conor Benn doping case anymore, and they care even less about what Victor Conte has to say. That's why I said, I think I'm more annoyed by his constant inquiries than either Conor Benn or Eddie Hearn. They can't be bothered, nor should they.
You're not in a position of authority, and you're not someone they have to answer to. They've already gone through the proper channels.
Buzz off.